It is the evening of April 22, 1991. You are 7 years old. You are sitting at the kitchen table in your home in Valencia, California, waiting for your mother to come home. She left a little while ago, a quick trip to McDonald's to pick up dinner for the family. She said she'd be right back. She's always right back. The door opens. Your father walks in. He's holding a small bag of cold French fries. He puts it on the table. He says your mother has gone away. You don't believe him. Neither does your 11-year-old brother. Neither does your 14-year-old sister. You look at the cold French fries and you know something is wrong. Your mother wouldn't leave. Not like this. Not without saying goodbye. Not without you. Your father's name is John Racz. He is a sergeant with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. He is an elementary school teacher. He is a man whose peers carry badges and know how to investigate crimes. Your mother's name is Ann Racz. She was 42 years old. She was a devoted churchgoer, a beloved member of her Valencia community, a woman whose friends described her as incapable of abandoning her children. She has never come home. 16 years later, a jury convicted John Racz of her murder, without a body, without physical evidence, without a single witness to the crime itself. He still says he didn't do it. Ann Racz has never been found. Ann Racz was born in 1948 and built a life in Valencia, California that was defined by two things above all others: her faith and her children. She was a regular churchgoer at their local parish, deeply embedded in the community, the kind of woman who showed up for everything and whom everyone noticed when she didn't. By April 1991, her marriage to John Racz had deteriorated beyond repair. She had begun an affair with a man in Northern California, a relationship that gave her, for the first time in years, a glimpse of a life outside a marriage that had grown increasingly difficult. She had filed for divorce. She was preparing to leave. She had also, according to investigators, been in communication with an attorney about the divorce settlement. John Racz stood to lose significantly, financially and professionally, when the marriage ended. The divorce would expose his conduct, reduce his financial security, and strip away the domestic stability that had defined his public identity as a respected law enforcement officer and teacher. On the evening of April 22, 1991, Ann left her home on a routine errand. She was going to McDonald's to pick up dinner for her 3 children. The drive was minutes. The errand was ordinary. She had done it dozens of times. She was never seen again. The investigation into Ann Racz's disappearance was complicated from its first moments by one central fact. The primary suspect was a law enforcement officer who understood exactly how homicide investigations operated. John Racz had spent his career with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. He knew what investigators looked for. He knew how crime scenes were processed. He knew what physical evidence was and how it was collected. He knew, better than almost anyone, what it took to prove a murder had occurred. And he knew that without a body, proving murder was extraordinarily difficult. When detectives began investigating Ann's disappearance, they found almost nothing. No physical evidence at the family home. No witnesses to a struggle or abduction. No confirmed sightings of Ann after she left for McDonald's. Her car was found, parked in a location that suggested it had been moved to create a diversion, but the car itself yielded nothing conclusive. John Racz told investigators his wife had simply left. She had gone on a surprise vacation. She would be back. When she didn't come back, he revised his account. She had chosen to abandon her family, to disappear voluntarily into a new life. She was that kind of woman, he suggested. The kind who would leave without saying goodbye. Her children knew differently. Her friends knew differently. Her pastor knew differently. The pastor was the witness who would eventually prove most significant, not for what he knew about the murder, but for what he saw in the days immediately after Ann's disappearance. He had seen scratches on John Racz's face. Fresh scratches. The kind that come from a struggle. The investigation stalled. Without a body, without physical evidence, without a witness to the crime itself, prosecutors had nothing they could take to a jury. The case went cold. For 16 years Ann Racz's children grew up without her. Raised partly by their father, the man they believed had killed their mother, unable to prove it, unable to move forward, unable to close a chapter that had no ending. 16 years after Ann Racz disappeared, a Los Angeles County prosecutor named Eleanor Hunter decided the circumstantial evidence was enough. It was an extraordinary decision. No body, no physical evidence, no eyewitnesses, A case built entirely on the testimony of family members, friends, a pastor who remembered scratches, and the collective certainty of everyone who had known Ann Racz that she would never have left her children. Hunter built her case piece by piece. She called Ann's children, now adults, who testified about their mother's devotion, their father's behavior in the days after her disappearance, and the cold French fries he had brought home that evening. She called friends who described a woman incapable of abandonment. She called investigators who walked the jury through 16 years of dead ends and the specific absence of evidence that should have existed if Ann had left voluntarily. She called the pastor who remembered the scratches. She argued that Ann Racz had been murdered by her estranged husband, motivated by rage over her affair and desperation to prevent the divorce from proceeding, and that his professional knowledge of law enforcement had allowed him to commit the crime in a way that left almost no trace. The jury deliberated and convicted John Racz of first-degree murder. The John Racz case presents one of the most forensically distinctive behavioral profiles, because the behavioral evidence that convicted him was not physical but testimonial, and the absence of physical evidence was itself the most diagnostic behavioral signature of the crime. John Racz was a law enforcement sergeant with decades of experience in the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. He was also an elementary school teacher, a man whose public identity was built around two of the most trusted community roles available, protector and educator. The behavioral literature on intimate partner homicide consistently identifies this dual identity profile, the trusted community figure who commits domestic violence, as among the most difficult to prosecute precisely because the perpetrator's professional and community standing creates cognitive resistance to the accusation in jurors and investigators alike. The absence of physical evidence is the most behaviorally significant element of this case. A homicide investigation that produces no body, no physical evidence, and no witnesses after 16 years of active investigation is not simply a difficult case. It is the result of deliberate, knowledgeable action by a perpetrator who understood exactly what investigators would look for. John Racz's professional knowledge of law enforcement investigation methodology is the most compelling explanation for the absence of recoverable evidence. He knew what not to leave behind. He knew how crime scenes were processed. He knew what physical evidence meant and how it was collected. The near-complete absence of evidence in a domestic homicide is statistically unusual. In most intimate partner murders, some physical evidence survives. Its absence here implies professional-level scene management. The cold French fries are the behavioral artifact that defines this case's human dimension. A man who murdered his wife and then returned to his children with a small bag of cold food, presenting her disappearance as a routine circumstance, was performing normalcy with extraordinary control. The behavioral requirement of that performance, to look at three children who were waiting for their mother and maintain composure while telling them she had simply gone away, is the act of a person capable of compartmentalizing violence and domestic behavior simultaneously. That compartmentalization is the defining behavioral characteristic of perpetrators who commit intimate partner homicide and successfully evade immediate detection. The pastor's testimony about the scratches is your most important dropped lead in this case, and the reason the case eventually succeeded 16 years later. A law enforcement officer who understands crime scene management does not always account for the witnesses who exist outside the crime scene itself, the people who saw him before he could control what they saw. The scratches on his face in the days after Ann's disappearance were not crime scene evidence. They were behavioral evidence, visible on a man who knew how to hide physical evidence but could not hide his own body. The pastor who noticed and remembered them became the thread that 16 years later helped hold the circumstantial case together. The parole eligibility is the most current and most outrageous element of this case. John Racz became eligible for parole in January 2023. A man convicted of murdering his wife, a woman whose body has never been found, whose children grew up without her, who was killed because she dared to file for divorce, has been sitting in parole hearings while Ann's family continues to wait for the closure that can only come from finding her remains. Ann Racz went to McDonald's on the evening of April 22, 1991 to bring home dinner for her three children. Her children waited. Their father came home with cold French fries and a story that none of them believed. Her children grew up. They testified against their father. They told a jury what they knew. The jury believed them. Ann has not been found. Somewhere in Southern California, in soil that has held its secret for 3 decades, Ann Racz is waiting to come home.